there are lots of these things that you do which don't scale,
Yeah.
like talking to all the customers that have
Yeah.
complaints and remembering birthdays. And if someone has a bad day, then you make something for them. Assuming ManiLife is going to keep on its growth trajectory.
How do you keep that? I think you just have to, and you don't need to do that for everyone. But once you lose and we did this for a period. We stopped focusing on stuff that didn't scale because we were like, we need to focus on stuff that levers up. You lose a lot of the magic. Like those little personal moments is like, they're not necessarily about like delivering numbers. I think if you do it enough, they do. It's about like fueling the beast. Because if the business just becomes right promotions, right space, driving rate of sale in supermarkets, then you become the thing that kept their eye off the ball enough to give you the space to come in. I think this thing about personal touches and doing stuff that doesn't scale is like so important. And it becomes a more challenging problem to integrate as you grow. Like we're nowhere near that level yet, I don't think. But yeah, it's like super key. One example actually, which we're now starting to roll out in a very non-scalar way. But just after lockdown, I developed this thing called the Peanut Butter Tasting School, which is basically like coffee and wine and beer. They all have tasting schools, like traditionally craft categories, which is something we're trying to emulate. And peanut butter didn't have one, so we basically made one. And because we couldn't figure out a way to like deliver it to thousands of people, we just stashed it. But 6 or 7 months ago, I could have brought it back out again and started delivering it to people. And it's turned out to be this just insane like trade tool, sales tool. We're going to start running them for consumers, and we're not hitting like thousands of people at once, but the 10 people we hit in a group become so like impassioned and love it so much that from what we hear, they tell their friends. Like sometimes I think it can deliver numbers, but often it's just about like maintaining the energy and the edge, which is as much internal as external.
And then there's like you burning out as a founder will just ripple into your team.
Yeah.
Like there's less energy in the team, and that energy then applies to all your customers. So it feels like there are two ways in which you can have impact. You can have thin level across tons of people, or very few people, and you go deep.
Yeah.
And I think we're similar in that it's less people and going deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's another like personalized deep love or like deep attention moments?
Oh, what ManiLife's done?
Yeah.
There's a few, but my favorite is actually way back, really early days when it's actually easier to do. But I remember I got a call from a woman who was clearly like a massive fan of ManiLife, and she was heavily pregnant. I think she was about to go into labour, and she was like, "Where my delivery of ManiLife hasn't come, and I really want it for when I'm in hospital."
Share that like pregnancy, craving.
But we ended up Ubering the peanut butter to the hospital to get delivered to her, and then like a few days later, she sent us a picture of her baby like holding the jar, and it was just like that. That was pretty nice. So for a while, that led to something that we called, I think, like Mani Mums, where if we found out that our consumers were pregnant or like heavily pregnant, we would send them like a pregnancy care pack. That is something that actually, though, that you could scale. And I think one of the things that was missing, which is less missing now, is like the mindset to be like, okay, this is a really cool thing that we've come up with in like a magical moment. How do we translate this thing into like a machine that happens, that can happen with a bit less effort? Because often how it played out was someone in the team, often me, but not always, would like spot something and be like, guys, everyone stop. We got to do this. And yeah, it was pretty quite disruptive, but then it would fill up everyone's cup and you'd move on. But if you had a kind of a machine, an engineer mind, which we've got a few more of them now, then all of a sudden that just builds into the pulse. And every mum who eats ManiLife gets a pregnancy pack on the way to hospital. I've got so many ideas here, AJ. Jesus.
And this ties into community building as well, right?
Yeah.
Like community building at the start is very personal. It's all of you, all you. And then as you systematize things, then the sort of energy spreads and other people start producing that energy for other people in the community.